you getting to the point of where you were speaking about gratitude and the whole person, what in your life led you down that path where that was something that you would be going to Gaia to be interviewed about?
So it was a few things then, Ben. As you had said at the introduction, I've been primarily a scientist and professor at the University of California, San Diego. Much of my research is focused in the area of cardiovascular diseases and particularly heart failure. And there was a turn in our work in the lab there where we started looking more at interventions rather than just understanding what's the pathophysiology of heart failure as far as mechanisms. And one of those interventions, we had started reading about positive psychology, and gratitude came up again and again. You might recall there's that old adage, a grateful heart is a healthy heart. So we thought, well, let's test that in this group of patients, and that's what we did. So our findings are so, I'd have to say, significant, not only statistically, which scientists always need, to publish their work, but also just clinically, and also just personally. So that's what got me started. We did a couple of studies, we published the research, and that was disseminated and quoted quite widely in the media.
Wow.
Well, I'm curious, can you talk about specifically some of the results, the science, the conclusions it came to?
Of course. Yeah. So what were some of the primary results of the studies? And the data I'll share with you represents several hundred different categories of heart failure patients. And to summarize a few domains, one, we had some of the patients keep a gratitude journal for a couple of months. And this we just added as a therapy on top of whatever their existing therapy was, which would routinely be physical activity, therapeutics, proper diet. So we had some of the patients keep the gratitude journal for 2 months. And that's routinely done out in the world. You might have done it yourself. I had done it in the past, just as a way to track how our life is going for us. So those patients who kept a gratitude journal for 2 months, a few things happened. One, of course, their sense of gratitude improved over time, which is typically what happens. It's often called developing an attitude of gratitude.
Makes sense.
Because you're priming your mind, your psyche, to see everything in the world with a sense of gratitude, appreciation. And after a while, that just becomes more of a routine and a habit.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
And also, the patients, their depressed mood went down. Their sense of chronic anxiety went down. Chronic anxiety is common in these patients, particularly the advanced patients, because they know they have a very significant diagnosis that could affect their mortality, not only ongoing morbidity.
Right.
They started sleeping better. They started having more energy.
Inflammation.
I was just about to say, inflammation.
So inflammation went down, you're saying?
Yeah. We drew blood from the patients, at the beginning, at the end of the study. And those patients who kept the gratitude journal, now get this, this is really unusual. They had about a 23-4% drop in a panel of highly accepted biomarkers relevant to the cardiac health itself, but also just general systemic inflammation. You don't see that typically happen in patients. In fact, the patients who were assigned to kind of regular treatment as usual, they didn't have any change in their inflammation. In fact, it tended to go up a little bit, which can often happen over time. And getting back to the earlier conversation of polyvagal theory, those patients who did the journaling, their heart rate variability improved, meaning the vagus regulation of their heart, that part of the autonomic contribution of their heart actually improved. They were having more variability over time. And that is also clinically significant because typically with cardiac disease, variability decreases over time. Gets worse, gets worse, gets worse, particularly the more failing heart. So gratitude as a practice, as let's say, a faculty that we as human beings can adopt and foster in ourselves is very powerful, not only psychically, but biologically.
Make sure y'all head over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member.
You'll have access to the growing library of deeper dives where I talk about all the stuff that I really can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you get involved in the Discord chat. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening, talking about new theories, being able to interweave into the greater conversation that is how we awaken infinity. That's our highest potential. And I just want to remind you, you are the most powerful technology ever known to creation. Wield it like an artist with a conscience.